High. Here's Paul. Oh, great crossover. Got Blake. Chris Paul crosses over Petrie.
Normal fans think everything's all right because that's the way they judge it.
Very light on his feet.
There he is. Paul. This screens for Paul. Rashid's on the little fella. Paul with a nice crossover. Fires with 5 on the shot clock. Where's Paul? Stop. Pop. Bottom.
Been stifling in this third quarter. Chris Paul, 1 second on the shot foul. Second year out of SMU. Chris Paul will pull up.
Chris Paul against Ridnour. Those are point guards will be battling for a spot on the Olympic team 3 years from now. Chris Paul with 3, with 2, with 1.
It's leading to those empty trips for the Hornets, really hurting them here in the fourth quarter.
Chris Paul again in traffic. Chris Paul, as Aaron Williams checked in for P.J. Brown during that last break, so did Speedy. Pushes back to Chris Paul. 5 now. CP for 2. Whips it back to Chris Paul.
Mavericks look active with those hands. Halfway through the third quarter.
Jumper. Serve from a partner's off. We're not running this broadcast on a delay. 12 points a game. Here is Paul. 9 on the shot clock. Against Tim Duncan. Fires. Got it. Paul against Vano. Pulls up for the jumper and
Off the bench. He's been a big help via the trade route. Chris Paul fires a
set this year for Nowitzki at the line. That's 8th in the league. Jump on the perimeter. Paul shooting over.
As you mentioned on the road. 7 on the shot clock. Paul is going to take the shot himself. Got the
Shot clock down to 5, to 4, to 3. Chris Paul. Bang!
Desmond Mason's back. CP3 with 2, with 1. Pulls up.
punch here. So that's what you do when you're a veteran.
And the players are so big, everybody's nose high.
Right. The 4th position in the East. Paul sizing up Ben Wallace off the switch. Chris Paul goes inside.
Dunked it in Claxton. Crawford with 12. And Paul, the other, the zone.
And that's where you want to go with the basketball.
Paul penetrates and scores. Bumped by Terry. The throw to the corner to Chris Paul, who will get inside and.
Chris Paul right around Ellis. Pick it up and in.
Chris Paul, quick move, up and in.
Nice 90 seconds remaining. Turns the corner. He's hit.
Paul has the mismatch now on Wood. Looking to exploit him.
Gets it. He'll get it over to Chris Paul now. 10 on the shot clock. Chris Paul, what a quick move to the basket for 2.
Now that they're in that position, it will be interesting to see what adjustments they make to the roster.
Chris Paul all the way gets into the scoring column like that. Now they can get a little more help from their bench. Wow.
Chris Anderson will check in for the Hornets. Paul around Jeffries, goes all the way and lays it in.
Free throw in the first half, and they did the entire game in Oklahoma City.
It helps to have Mim and Odom back. Paul's runner.
Chris Paul in the front court. A quick burst of speed. Double pumps into the line and transition baskets.
So the fast break points are even at 9.
Less than 2 to play in the third quarter.
Chris Paul with under 6 minutes to play now. Penetrates, put it up.
Ford not allowing Paul to drive. Ford goes down. Paul does drive to score.
Excellent pass by Jim Jackson out of the pull.
Inside, it's Claxton.
He started leaning, you know, when players know their shot is
to the top. 5 to shoot. Paul from the elbow.
Works around the Chandler screen. Now with 3 and with 2, with 1. Got it.
Paul deep at the clock now. Lamar takes over on it. And over Lamar, he knew it. And he gets
In the front row, I'm impressed. He said, hey, I don't sit in them folding chairs. Give me one of them cushion ones.
All right, here's Chris Paul doesn't want to take threes, but he will. And he's pretty.
Outside, 5 seconds. Down to 4, down to 3. Chris Paul will fire in the third quarter. Paul pulls up for the jumper and hits.
the shoulder to grab the pass. Gives it back to Paul up top. Dribbles into a jumper.
Oh, little shake and bake move, and he hit. Now foul. 4, 3. Here comes Paul. A jump and a LeBron is hurting. He's trying to walk it off. Chris Paul jumps and scores.
You can basically play honest now.
Paul for 3.
Oh.
Paul for the board. Chandler also his 5th rebound. Timberwolves have missed all 7 3-point.
Chris Paul finally came over.
They've been healthy all season long. They got Rashad McCants back now, so
They double team him. Paul just keeps going. Oh, look at Ross's team. If he makes that, Paul.
In and out.
Suns have hoisted up 20 3-point attempts, have hit 9.
Gerald Wallace.
Paul.
Walked, lost the basketball in midair, came down with it, but good finish by Rudy.
Chris Paul with his left. Chris Paul is seen again. Monte's fouled out of the game.
And a point from a point guard. Finally good one.
Paul drives.
But also kept the dribble alive.
He kept after it. Foul in the corner, and he buried the 3. James Posey's 29th 3 of the year. And Paul stopped the ball.
At 4, Chris Paul at 3, and he hits. Looking for Stojakovic again. Paul turns the corner inside, putting it up and in.
Redirects Paul. Shot clock down to 5. Chris Paul. Crossover. Paul pulls back.
Lead to 8 going into the 4th quarter. They get the first bucket or 2, and they're on their way.
Everything is a positive point. Right now we know that Chris Paul, he's got to get going. He had a nice half.
Whistles tonight, though. Lakers only taking 7 free throws. Paul trying to get inside. Farmar did a good job at it.
See if he can do the same thing for Houston. He's got the club to do it. Paul with a fall away.
Picks up the dribble, just get a back shot clock at 3. He's got Beatrice on him. Oh. Paul against Chuck. Trying to take it. Crosses over.
Very young coming in, but Byron Scott gave him the basketball and said, "You're going to lead us." And
He has to be more aggressive as a scorer. They've got to get more scoring into their lineup. If they can't defend him, then we've got to wait out score him.
Paul, point lead, under 2.5 remaining in the first overtime. Paul, the crossover and a step back go.
And now it's down to 9. Paul against Devin Harris. He'll elevate and hits.
Chris Paul with 4 on the clock. Pulls up over DOR. Got it.
The other basket of this quarter for Dallas. As the Mavericks scored 5 here early on in the 4th. Chris Paul hits for the. A little step back on Barnes.
Games to 9 of 10. Chris Paul maneuvering. What an athlete.
Chandler, 5 on the clock, pitch out to Paul. A couple of crossovers on Charlie V, and then just he's starting to feel good.
Yeah, he says, I feel good for the first time since the first week of the season. Paul.
Looking at the shot clock and gets Verajak. Head fake.
Oh, close the gap to 3. Ball with a jumper.
Goes out and gets him. Now his bluffs the pick. Paul shoots over the top.
And to make the pass to Grant Hill or Raja Bell, and he refused to do it.
And here's Paul taking in the down to Chris Paul. Chris Paul got
that run. Hornets have not scored in the last 5 minutes. Here's Chris Paul.
Play it fairly straight up tonight. There's no surprises on the inactives tonight. The 2 inactives for the Hornets.
He can block shots and run the floor.
yes, he can. And Bonzi Wells is on the floor. He's a tough guy to guard also.
Fish bouncing around with Chris Paul.
Williams went right ahead of him in the draft, and he hasn't turned out too badly either.
Paul slithers into the lane. Now backs up just out of the paint and hits.
Judicious about his shot taking. Chris Paul.
Fieldhouse, the Pacers won in Oklahoma City. Paul. The NBA. Williams.
Allow Leandro to get the layup.
That's what Boris Diaw can really do, is pass out of that.
Paul working it low to the floor. 6 on the clock. Chris Paul out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina will tee up along with a
team that's a playoff team. Paul
Williams at Utah has a guard just like Chris Paul.
At 10, Paul has to reset. He's one-on-one with Roy.
He's dangerous.
Last two rookies of the year.
CP against Grant Hill for 2.
Bumper. Here's Chris Paul. Pull up.
23.
Jazz have a foul to give.
Chris Paul tried to get that whistle. Did
well because of the game. No, this young guy is playing as well as any point record is up there among the top teams in the West. Do they deserve mention among the top teams in the West?
West against Gasol. Paul thought about it.
87-78, the Mavs lead after the foul shot by Stackhouse. Chris Paul. Those interested in seeing the Hornets when they come to Dallas, they'll be in town in less than 2 weeks on Friday night, December 14th.
Chandler has the mismatch inside. Jared Jack. Is Portland playing a little zone now? That's by design.
Paul headed off at the pass, keeps the dribble alive. That's what he's so good at.
Ball crossing over, gets in deep, running right. Way down from the double. Durant checking Paul, but he brings back that wicked pop.
For New Orleans and 35% shooting for the Dallas Mavericks. Great.
Can't get the ball out of his hands, though. He's a magician. Here he comes, lay it out, and that's goaltending.
Need to go in the game. Paul with a great dribble and a running.
15-point third quarter for Chris Paul. Big contact.
Final seconds here of the second. It's coming up. Right after the second quarter.
Here's Paul. And that's when he did Chris Paul right there. That's a nice lesson for Kmart to remember. So Paul keeps the streak going.
6 straight New Orleans points. Let's see if they tack on to it. Yeah.
Chris Paul brings it up. Paul starts to drive, double pump.
And beating Denver. Chris Paul right down the lane.
An automatic one-game suspension.
Not the same thing that Chris did, though. There's it floating.
Chandler the offensive rebound for the Hornets. Now Paul goes to the basket. And got it from a team that built a 16-point lead, Bob, but it's got away from the pretty.
Hornets have a single point.
Barron is just hounding Paul. Hounding him.
What a tough.
Ball off the bounce. He's going to take it. Make it.
Still dribbling.
Yes. Takes it with 3 on the clock and Barry.
Chris Paul. Shake and bake against Joe.
Playmakers in the game, as the Hornets do with Chris Paul, you're giving them a little bit of an advantage in Paul.
Chris Paul spinning on George Hill, and then the floater. Wow.
4 seconds. First half. Chris Paul
said, "Chose don't hook me no more." I didn't.
Shot clock at 3 for number 3. Paul setting things up on the half court. 5 on the shot clock. Now 4.
Paul with a jump shot. And there's the big starting on Paul. 8 on the shot clock for Chris Paul. Flattened out. He'll take the jumper. No high screen out there.
The Blazers are switching on all cross picks. Chris Paul over Outlaw.
Paul back in the contest. Has space. And
Chris Paul with 3 to shoot. 3 on the way. It's in
26 wins at home, 22 wins on the road. Great moves. 97-85.
All that great since coming back, but that's to be expected with the broken finger.
Anderson now defending on Paul. 3 on the shot clock. Down to 2. Paul.
8 turnovers in that game. With the 30 assists, an excellent mark as Paul.
Good help for Scola. Chris Paul. Got him.
Now you got Chandler with Salmon's guard.
Paul fires the jump.
When he's shooting like that, it's going to be tough to defend.
Shot clock to 5. And Paul fires for 3. Chris Paul against Rudy Gay.
Minutes in overtime. Shot clock is down to 3.
Yeah, you got O'Neal on Chris.
Lead to 13.
Oops. Oops. Paul decided to take it away.
Chris Paul.
Finally, he gets. Give him a little room. He'll shoot it over Landry.
In the NBA will just kind of be content to try and defend them once they catch him.
We can really see what the coach is talking about.
In Boston, 4 on the shot clock for Chris Paul. Now 3, now 2. He fires.
Got to stick with it. Chris Paul into the lane against Kenyon. Paul trying to create.
Oh, they have been really out of sync here the last 4 minutes.
Paul gives it right back to Paul on the shot clock. Down to 4. Here's Paul with a long 3.
He stays in on the front line with Miller and Hawes. In the backcourt of Udrich and Salmons. Here's Paul again. An example of it there. Final seconds. Paul.
You'll hear the Grizzlies talk from time to time about the ball sticking. Needs to move. So Rudy, after the smart start, 3 for 8.
Paul in transition. Pull up. 2 more.
Battle off to Paul. Takes it right up over Williams. Jump
Again, Paul is met on the switch by Nene. Paul shoots.
Paul for 3.
Magic and Andre Iguodala with the game winner. Here's Chris Paul has just checked back in.
He called clear out. See, he wants to take Dampier off the dribble.
Now Nowitzki's waiting there, so shoot out.
Games under their new head coach, Lionel Hollins. Rudy Gay's playing exceptional basketball along with O.J. Mayo.
Chris Paul has the Hornets spread the floor. Then Paul to his right. Forces that switch again. And then Paul raises up again. Paul against Noah now. Paul fires the jumper.
Chris Paul, 7 on the shot clock. Pulls up on Blatch and hits.
And look at the Hawks that constantly push them Hornets in that shot.
Yeah. It will help them in the long run. I see.
There. Nowitzki switching off to Paul.
Shooting by the Hornets corner here in the second half. Stop and pop. Chris Paul. Chris Paul pulling up.
Come on, Brown's shot. 4 on the clock for CP. Wants 3. Got 3.
Chris Paul from deep and
Goes at Finley and hits
the Magic, and then they started recovering and have played great since.
That was just a bad road trip there. I mean,
Shot clock is down to 6. Here is Paul.
What's going on around the league.
Paul jumps it up.
Chris Paul. Turioff retreating. Roney stayed with him. Shot clock down to 5. And then he hit.
Well, they go 2 for 1. And
Stacey, defense should be a little bit easier. You got plenty of time to get back and load up. Paul scores. And
he's knocking down the jumpers.
Much improved shooter from 15 feet to the 3. An outstanding rebounding guard. He averages 5.5 rebounds per game.
Bosch now handles. Here's Paul with the shot clock down in the lane, left hand.
Chandler away, and that opens it up for a lot of other guys to get to the basket. Paul, and he puts it up. They can trade 2 for 1, they're going to do it. Chris Paul floater.
This is a tough matchup for Nene. Let him have the jumper. In the lane. And aggressive for New Orleans on the one end, and then the Clippers followed up with a bad one on that end. Oh, my.
Paul fouled by 4 and quarter, but they haven't needed to. The Hornets have been shooting lights out from outside the arc.
You see the numbers on our Jeep game. Chris Paul. He would be a pain to guard. Going.
No, Denver 84-70.
See, he's better coming off the bench because he's a better defender playing on the court with McGlure, who kind of guides him back there on where to go.
Games. He's at 8 tonight.
There's a lady sitting in front of obviously a Hornets fan. Every time Denver scores, ooh, look at that move.
And a big rebound. Paul with a spin move.
Game 3 is Saturday. Denver has taken a 2-0.
Seconds to go here in the 4th. Nash has 20 points now. More contact.
Back out and got it to Chris Paul. Paul down the lane and the shot.
9 shots now after that follow slam by Howard.
7 points, 6 rebounds,
13 points for Smith.
Bounced ahead to Chris Paul. Paul down the lane, driving, shooting.
In here to celebrate a very successful December. Paul made points than you. They have more points in the paint than you.
Well, they might beat you if they do all of that.
Yeah.
Marcus Shaw back on the floor. Paul against Conley.
Great hands.
CP challenges and scores.
Foul was on Watson prior to the attempted completion.
Paul, the bump and run with down.
Paul looking. Harrington. Paul knocks him down, then runs. The bank shot is
Starting because they've not been able to get the productivity out of him that they need. So they thought maybe starting would help.
The line tonight, you couldn't even chase him, no?
I know, and I tried. No, I didn't. But...
As you have called it many times, the toughest play to defend in basketball, you get a steal in the Mavericks.
Paul. It goes side, but he's got a good mid-range and deep jumper.
Situations now with JJ guarding Chris Paul.
Paul got the step.
High degree of difficulty, no doubt about it. So good. Now they go one-on-one, right down the baseline, and the ball.
Offense and defense.
Ball crossover, hits it.
Nearly 20 points a game. He leads the NBA in assists at just over 11. Paul fadeaway on Kenyon.
Paul with the shot clock down to 3. Crosses over, elevates and 4 in the shot clock.
You got freedom.
No, it's the first time I've seen that.
The glitch. Here's Paul from 20.
Paul's going to take it.
Right through Nene's hands. Chris Paul, 4 in the clock.
That's done against San Antonio. Paul. Oh, he's found him.
Out quick, a very quick big man.
Those will pretty much do it. As Paul steps back up, puts up another. Just 8 first-half points on 1 for 3 shooting.
And defensively, you've got to pick someone to double off of. The Hornets chose wrong that time. Drew Holiday made.
Kenyon on Chris Paul. 10 on the shot clock. Over Martin, got it.
It's all Chris Paul. They're going to come either give him 1-4 high-low or come pick for him.
Final 4 seconds. Chris Paul, fade away.
The dad back in May asked him any question about his boy. Is he not gather himself?
Well, the last 2 starts for Indiana at home have been tough against.
Success when Nick has had 20 or more points this year.
Paul pulls up over Foy and
14 and nearly 11 rebounds a game. Chris 16 here in the third. Final 6 seconds. Chris Paul off balance.
They're averaging 16 a game.
Chris Paul puts up the jumper away from a triple-double. Chris Paul with 6 triple-doubles this season. LeBron has 7. And that's Chris goaltending. That was a pretty good play by Okafor. 32-30. Chris Paul.
Paul still with it. West trying to get the switch onto Blake. And
There's a quick double on Paul.
Now the shot clock's at 4. Now he'll shoot it in.
57-49. Here's Chris Paul. Good.
For Paul.
Not what the Raptors needed. Here's Paul, jump shot, good.
Look how the Knicks get back. Good communicating. As Paul.
4 screen. Paul against Brooks with 3, with 2, over 2. Yes, 4. Now down to 7. Retreat. Chris Paul at 5. Paul in the lane, sucks up the space, turn around, got it. Statistically, I agree with you. It feels like it. Chris Paul.
Shot clock off. All down to 5. Monte stays right with them. Floats it over.
Paul, a fadeaway. Put it in.
against Pendergraph. Blake now gets back on it. Shot clock at 10. Paul down the left side over Pendergraph. Hit.
Now Paul with 8 on the clock. Shaking and banking on Kenyon. Wanted the foul, and he back out. 7 seconds on the shot clock.
This is when he takes it himself. Off the glass.
Should be a huge night at the AT&T Center when Utah comes to town. Chris
Play the high post center. It really takes him away from what he does best.
There's Paul.
Holiday on an island here against Chris Paul. Paul getting by him, and
Paul drives. What a shot.
Chris Paul with the crossover and the drive. Floats it up off the high. Late seconds.
Yeah, you can't force him either way.
That's the foul. It'll still be ball on the side. Chris Paul over the top.
There's Chris Paul working against Jason Kidd. Nice up fake, and
He's going to drive CJ. At 2, Chris Paul ends that. Charlie Villanueva and Austin Day will check in a moment. Here's Paul with a drive, double clutch. And get his confidence back.
yeah, he needs that so badly.
Paul.
54% for the game. And once again, they're a little cold. Chris Paul takes it inside.
Chris Paul. Blow by on Brooks, and he scores!
Getting here in the fourth quarter.
Chris Paul doesn't touch the ball until there's 12 seconds on the shot clock. It does.
Paul into the lane. Bunny hop. And he throws it in.
The drive to the basket. Great block by Mecca. Too bad the Hornets couldn't get it.
The switch they wanted with Andrew Bynum on Chris Paul.
What Paul exploited back in game 1.
What they got the switch again.
That means the big man's on the little man. Well, Paul, Nance, clock at 5. Little fake. Oh!
Falls down, shot clock at 8. Paul drives, bumped by Fisher. Tough shot. It's good.
They almost never call an offensive foul. If you don't leave your feet, they won't call a defensive foul.
Paul with 1 second left.
The second quarter shot. Jason Richardson.
With Humphries. Trying to guard him in the corner. Shot clock down to 3. Off the dribble and a jumper.
Points. They have 9 fast break points tonight. That's about their average. And, you know, you just have to be.
After Steve Blake gives the Lakers some breathing room now. Back to 14.
Oh, stop on a dime.
Get
On my way. I'm going to make a play if Pau Gasol is going to defend. Paul pulls up, jump shot. Barnes picks up his first. You're right. The switch now brings Odom out on Chris Paul. Paul with a 3.
5. Paul against Brooks. Like Paul wants to go to work against Aaron Brooks, and he has. Shot clock. Dudley trying to come out. 3. Here's Paul.
in 3 attempts. The Sixer lead at 24, as large as 25. There's Paul doing his. Here's Paul with Mo Evans defending. Jumper.
Just got to be careful of the foul. He's doing a pretty good job keeping Paul out of there. 5 on the clock. Paul got Felton in the help position. Paul over the top. Got it.
Well, Brown stays with Paul. He's got Kwame Brown way away from the basket. And hit.
A couple earlier. How about the great pass from Gary Neal?
Okafor. The shot clock is down to 2. Nelson, a terrific job on.
You got to be aware of that at this point.
Chris Paul.
Wow. 107-91. Chris Paul over his former teammate.
That's more Paul right there. But they have the 1-point lead. Paul going to.
Paul to beat the shot clock, not for their second best at keeping people off the foul line.
Chris Paul trying to drag Aldridge out of.
Horford again on him in a switch. Okafor screens. Goes away from it. Puts up the jumper. Got it.
Here's Paul. Pulls up, hits it.
Seconds. Chris Paul. Riding on Terry. Pulls up and rattles it in.
Bounds here in the quarter, 6 total. 28 points for the NBA's leading scorer.
Shot clock at 7. With the crossover. Generating for Paul. Blake is there. Shot clock at 4. Chris Paul. Made the first man to get to double figures with his 11 points. Chris Paul. Either way, Paul is on Barnes. Paul 0 of 1 over Max.
Phoenix. There's Paul dancing outside, is open over Hill.
Now a 2-for-1 situation for Chris Paul. He'll take it.
About 4 minutes to play in the quarter. Paul eyeballs Davis, who's right there.
It's a hard play. Dice is over a couple bodies that time. Number 3, pitcher. He's got a double-double, 21 and 11. Now Chris Paul.
Now the gash above his eye. Hornets on a little 6-0 run. The crossover on Kobe by Chris Paul. 5. Chris Paul, 5 of 10. Blake is on him. Foul, Blake. Count it!
Virginia Martin. Nuggets back up by 18. Chris Paul.
Oh,
throws
that's
up and shot clock right now at 5. Paul eyes that shot clock.
Didn't have to put the ball on the deck, didn't have to move. Nice shot, nice execution.
Boy. Nice crossover.
Dudley now switches out on it. Paul wants the ball. Goes in against Dudley.
The ball just moved around the horn. That's it. No one ever threatened the basket.
Chris Paul. Paul with a nice fake, gets inside and scores.
All with some kinds of knee problems.
Setting up Yao Ming for the easy layup.
Yao with 5 points to start the game. Chris Paul got it in.
Big news from that series. Thank you very much. Ernie under 3 to play now. Paul to the rack.
Says Tom Lieutenant. Ball in a crossover. Look at him keep that dribble alive. And
Just over 2 minutes to go in overtime. Nets up by 2.
Martin with Booker, Wall, Blatch, Heinrich. Here's Chris Paul. Good move. And he's
Smith reluctant to get out there and cover Jeff Green on the perimeter. And again, that's where Jeff...
back of Brandon Bass. Chris Paul flips.
I was going to say, don't let him get it back.
Now he drives around.
And that's why.
Start being a little more aggressive in pick-and-roll game.
Paul.
Points, 8 assists in this first half.
A step back 3.
Can't get a couple of those to fall. Paul, quickly. Balls here, not the whole game, but lately. Against the center, Lopez. The drive. That miss was in and out. Looked good from here. Would have cut the game in.
5 and a shot clock.